It's late. The house is quiet, but your mind is loud. There is a task in front of you, one you know is important, one that could move your life forward, yet it sits there, untouched, growing heavier with every tick of the clock. You feel a familiar hollow ache in your chest, the quiet anxiety of inaction. You tell yourself, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll be more focused then. But you and I both know that tomorrow often brings the same struggle, the same feeling of being a spectator in your own life, watching opportunities drift by while you remain anchored by a force you can't seem to overcome. This is the shadow of procrastination, a silent thief that steals not just our time, but our self-respect. But what if this cycle could be broken, not with a surge of superhuman motivation that never lasts, but with a tool so ancient and so profoundly simple, it feels like a secret hidden in plain sight? What if you could reclaim control not by fighting this resistance head-on, but by sidestepping it with wisdom? This is the promise of Stoicism, a philosophy forged not in quiet libraries, but in the chaos of the Roman Empire, designed for action, not just contemplation. In this video, we will not just talk about procrastination, we will begin to dismantle it piece by piece. We will start with a rule so disarmingly easy that it feels almost like cheating. A principle that ancient Stoics like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca would have recognized not by its modern name, but by its very essence, the 2-minute rule. This is your first step toward building an unbreakable discipline. Before we delve into this rule, it's crucial to understand why this approach works where so many others fail. Modern productivity culture often bombards us with complex systems, apps, and life hacks that promise to solve everything overnight. But these are often just surface-level fixes. They address the symptoms of procrastination, not the root cause, which is the internal friction you feel when facing a task. The Stoics knew that this friction originates in our perception. It's the story we tell ourselves about the work, its overwhelming size, its daunting difficulty, the fear of not doing it perfectly. We see a mountain, and so we feel paralyzed. The Stoic path isn't about finding a magic lever to move the entire mountain at once. It's about realizing the only thing you truly control is the very next step, the single pebble you can move right now. This is the transformation we will embark on together. In this video, we will begin with the 2-minute rule as our foundational habit, the small hinge that swings the giant door of action. But we won't stop there. We will then explore 3 more powerful Stoic principles that build upon this foundation, each designed to forge a different link in the chain of your discipline. Think of this not as a lecture, but as a workshop for your will. By the end of our time together, you won't just have a set of rules. You will have a new operating system for your mind, one that allows you to face challenges with tranquility, act with purpose, and finally defeat the resistance that has held you back. So take a deep breath. Let go of the judgment from yesterday's inaction. Be here now. Let's begin. Rule 1. The 2-minute rule, the gateway to action. Let us begin with the foundation. Rule 1. The principle that will serve as our gateway to action. We must first address the greatest hurdle in any meaningful pursuit, the starting. Think about it. How often does a task loom so large in your mind that you cannot even bring yourself to begin? It is not the work itself that defeats you in that moment, but the inertia. It's the chasm that yawns between your intention and your first physical action. This is the mental quicksand where discipline dies. You want to write the book, but you can't open the document. You want to get fit, but you can't put on your running shoes. The resistance feels immense, a solid wall. But the Stoics would tell us that we are misjudging the nature of this wall. We are seeing it as one monolithic object, when in reality it is built of many small, manageable bricks. This is where the sheer, beautiful simplicity of the 2-minute rule comes into play. The rule itself is this: if a task takes less than 2 minutes to complete, do it immediately without hesitation. Now, on the surface, this sounds like a modern productivity hack. It is not. It is a profound psychological and philosophical tool that aligns directly with the core of Stoic thought. The Stoics, particularly Epictetus, were obsessed with a concept we now call the dichotomy of control, understanding the critical difference between what we can influence and what we cannot. The final outcome of a project, the success of a business, the judgment of others, these things are ultimately external and not entirely within our control. But the first 2 minutes of action, that is entirely, unequivocally, yours to command. This rule is not about finishing the task. It's about mastering the art of starting it. To truly wield this rule, you must see it not as a simple trick, but as a law of psychological physics. An object at rest tends to stay at rest. An object in motion tends to stay in motion. Your motivation works in precisely the same way. The 2-minute rule is not about the task itself. It is about changing your state from at rest to in motion. It is the small, calculated push needed to overcome the inertia of inaction. The Stoic, therefore, doesn't wait for the feeling of motivation to strike. They generate it through action. They understand that action and motivation are not a one-way street. It isn't that motivation leads to action. More often than not, it is a small, almost trivial action that creates the momentum that we then label as motivation. So, how do we apply this? The first layer is obvious. For any small, standalone task that appears in your life, washing your coffee cup, responding to a simple email, putting a book back on the shelf, do it immediately. This clears away the mental clutter of a growing to-do list and builds a subconscious identity of someone who does things. But the true power of this rule lies in its second layer, using it as a gateway to your most important long-term goals. Your ambition is not practice the guitar, it is to take the guitar out of its case and play one scale. Your goal is not write a chapter of my book, it is to open the document and write one sentence. Your objective is not run 3 miles, it is to put on your running shoes and walk out the front door. We are scaling down the perceived effort to a point so low, it becomes more difficult to say no than to simply do it. Let's make this practical right now. I want you to bring to mind one task you have been putting off, something that carries weight for you. Perhaps it's a project for work, a difficult conversation you need to have, or a health habit you've been avoiding. See it clearly, in your mind. Now I want you to ask yourself, what is the 2-minute gateway to this task? What is the absolute smallest first physical step you could take? It is not work on the presentation. It is open PowerPoint and choose a title slide. It is not organize the garage. It is walk into the garage and throw away one piece of trash. Define that 2-minute starting ritual. This is your point of entry. This is the door you can always walk through, no matter how tired or uninspired you feel. Of course, your mind may still rebel. As you go to start, a voice may whisper, "What's the point? This tiny action is nothing." This is the final ghost of resistance you must learn to face, and you face it with Stoic logic. When that voice appears, you must reply to it with calm authority. The point of this action is not to finish the project. The point is to practice being the kind of person who honors their own commitments. The point is to prove that I am in command of my own will. The point is to get in motion. You are divorcing the action from the outcome. You are focusing only on what is in your control, this 2-minute effort. Very often you will find that once these 2 minutes are up, the momentum has already taken hold, and continuing for 5, 10, or 30 more minutes feels natural. And if it doesn't, you still walk away with a victory. You did what you said you would do. You have strengthened the muscle of your discipline. But the most profound transformation that occurs through this practice is not external, it is internal. It is the reforging of your own self-perception. Understand this, Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. When you skip the workout, you cast a vote for being undisciplined. When you delay the important task, you cast a vote for being a procrastinator. But when you honor the 2-minute rule, you are casting a powerful vote for a new identity. You are voting to be someone who is disciplined, someone who keeps their word to themselves, someone who acts with purpose. You are not just washing a dish. You are becoming a person who lives in a clean and orderly space. You are not just writing one sentence. You are becoming a writer. The Stoics called this the practice of virtue, the daily, moment-to-moment choice to act with integrity and excellence. The 2-minute rule is your training ground for this virtue. This is the power of compounding consistency. A single 2-minute action may seem insignificant today, but the cumulative effect of these actions over months and years is what separates the amateur from the master, the dreamer from the doer. The great wall of your life's work is not built in a single day with a grand gesture. It is built one brick at a time, with quiet, unassuming daily effort. The Stoic emperor Marcus Aurelius didn't conquer his anxieties with one epic insight. He did it by returning to his principles every single morning, writing in his journal, and steering his thoughts back to what he could control. He laid one brick, then another. The 2-minute rule is your modern method for laying that first brick every single day without fail. It is the humble starting point of all great achievements. Consider a professional, a man we can all recognize, feeling buried by a massive strategic report he must write. For a week, the sheer size of it paralyzes him. The icon on his desktop seems to mock him. Then he commits to this one simple rule. Every morning, before checking a single email, he will open the document and simply keep his hands on the keyboard for 2 minutes. On day 1, he manages only to write a title and a few jumbled thoughts. He feels foolish, but he has won. On day 2, he refines the title and writes 3 bullet points. Another victory. By the end of the week, the momentum has subtly shifted. The document is no longer a monster under the bed. It has become a familiar workspace. A month later, the first draft is complete, not because of a heroic, caffeine-fueled all-nighter, but through the calm, steady, and relentless accumulation of these 2-minute victories. So, the 2-minute rule is far more than a simple life hack. It is a philosophical weapon against our 2 greatest internal enemies: perfectionism, which tells us don't start until you can do it perfectly, and sloth, which tells us don't start because it's too hard. It is the ultimate embrace of progress over perfection. It is the recognition that the journey of 1,000 miles truly does begin with a single, manageable step. Master this, and you have not just learned a trick, you have learned how to begin. And in learning how to begin, you have unlocked the potential to achieve anything. Rule 2. Guard your attention like a fortress. You have begun. You have used the key of the 2-minute rule to open the door and step across the threshold of action. But now, a new battle begins. You have entered the arena, and the enemy is no longer inertia, but distraction. In our modern world, your attention is the most valuable currency you possess, and you are living in the middle of a relentless siege to capture it. Every notification, every ping, every new email, every breaking news alert is a soldier trying to breach the walls of your focus. Procrastination in the 21st century rarely looks like sitting staring at a blank wall. It looks like being busy with a dozen trivial things, all while avoiding the one thing that truly matters. Your mind becomes a leaky bucket, your precious mental energy draining away into the cracks of digital noise, leaving you feeling exhausted, but having accomplished nothing of substance. The Stoics had a word for the state of mind required to combat this siege: Prosochē. It means a continuous, vigilant, and mindful attention to your inner world, your thoughts, your judgments, and your actions. For philosophers like Epictetus, Prosochē was not a passive state, but the fundamental active discipline of a rational mind. He taught that your attention is the rudder of your soul. Wherever you direct it, your life will follow. If you allow it to be hijacked by trivialities, your life becomes a reflection of those trivialities. But if you can learn to direct it, to hold it steady on what is virtuous and important, you can navigate any storm. Guarding your attention is not a productivity trick. It is an act of existential self-preservation. This connects directly to the heart of procrastination. Procrastination is often a flight from discomfort. The important task feels difficult, overwhelming, or boring, so we seek refuge in the easy dopamine hit of a distraction. We open a new browser tab, scroll through a social media feed, or suddenly decide to organize our spice rack. These are not just distractions, they are escape routes. They are emergency exits our mind takes to avoid the friction of meaningful work. By practicing Prosochē, by guarding your attention like a fortress, you begin to consciously seal these escape routes. You make a deliberate choice to stay with the discomfort, to be present with the task you have committed to, allowing your mind no other place to go but forward. So how do we build this fortress? We start from the outside in. First, we must secure the physical and digital perimeter. Think of this as building the outer walls. This requires a degree of ruthlessness. Turn off every non-essential notification on your phone, your computer, and your smartwatch. Every single ping is an invitation for your mind to abandon its post. You must decline these invitations in advance. Second, create sacred hours in your schedule using time blocking. These are non-negotiable appointments with your most important work. Treat an 8 a.m. appointment with your writing the same way you would an 8 a.m. meeting with your CEO. It is inviolable. Finally, curate your physical space. An uncluttered desk in a quiet room is not a matter of mere aesthetics. It is a clear signal to your brain that this is a place of focus, a sanctuary for deep work. A messy desk is a field of visual landmines, each one capable of detonating a new distracting thought. Securing your environment is a critical first step, but it is only half the battle. The most persistent distractions do not come from your screen. They come from within your own skull. This is why the Stoics spoke of building an inner citadel. Marcus Aurelius envisioned this as a fortress within his own mind, a place of peace and rationality that no external chaos could ever touch. Building your external fortress is about controlling your space. Building your inner citadel is about mastering yourself. This is the ultimate aim of Prosochē, to cultivate a mind so well trained that it can remain focused and tranquil even if you were working in the middle of a storm. This is the source of unbreakable resilience. The first technique for building this citadel is to become a gatekeeper of your own thoughts. Imagine a wise and patient guard standing at the gates of your conscious mind. This guard's job is not to violently fight off every incoming thought, but to calmly inspect each one before it is granted entry. When a distracting thought arrives, I should check my email. I wonder what's happening on the news. I need to remember to buy milk. You, as the gatekeeper, simply observe it without immediate judgment or action. You hold it up to the light and ask one simple question. Is this thought useful and necessary for the task at hand right now? If the answer is no, you don't struggle with it. You simply label it a distracting thought, a future concern, and deny it entry, letting it drift away. This is the practice, not a war against your thoughts, but the calm and rational governance of your mind. For those moments when the thoughts feel too urgent to simply ignore, we can employ a more structured tool, the distraction log. Keep a simple notepad or a blank piece of paper on your desk. While you work, when one of these important but off-task ideas erupts into your consciousness, do not switch tasks. Do not open a new tab. Instead, Take 2 seconds to jot down a keyword or a short phrase on your log. Email vendor, milk, idea for Project X. By writing it down, you are making a contract with your mind. You are saying, I have acknowledged this. It is captured and will not be forgotten. Now, we must return to our post. This simple act releases your brain from the burden of trying to remember the thought, freeing it to return its full attention to the work you have chosen to do. This log is not a to-do list you work from. It is a holding cell for distractions, to be processed only after your sacred work time is complete. Ultimately, this constant practice of redirecting your attention is an ethical act. It is the essence of living a deliberate life. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself in his meditations to call your wandering mind back to its purpose. The fact that his mind wandered was not a sign of failure. The act of consistently calling it back was the definition of his success. The goal is not to achieve a perfect, unbroken state of focus. That is inhuman. The goal is to become quicker and more graceful at noticing when your attention has strayed and gently, firmly guiding it back home. Each time you do this, you are strengthening your will. You are choosing reason over impulse, purpose over distraction. You are not just getting more done. You are becoming the master of your own mind, the very definition of a Stoic sage. To guard your attention like a fortress, then, is to fight a war on 2 fronts. You must be a pragmatic general, securing your outer environment against the siege of digital distraction, and you must also be a wise philosopher king, cultivating an inner citadel of discipline to govern your own wandering thoughts. By mastering this dual practice of Prosochē, you do more than just get work done. You create the conditions for flow, for deep engagement, and for the profound satisfaction that comes from directing your life's most precious resource with deliberate purpose. You have learned how to start, and you have learned how to focus. But what happens when the enemy isn't a notification or a stray thought, but the task itself? What do we do when the work becomes genuinely difficult, frustrating, or tedious, and we feel the powerful urge to quit? To conquer this, we must turn to our third Stoic principle. Rule 3, the obstacle is the way you have started the work. You have built a fortress around your attention. You are in the arena, fully engaged. And then, it happens. You hit the wall. The code returns an error you cannot solve. The words for the page will not come. The problem you are analyzing reveals a layer of complexity you did not anticipate. In this moment, the initial momentum fades, and the raw difficulty of the task makes itself known. A hot wave of frustration rises in your chest. The quiet, insidious voice of self-doubt begins to whisper, "This is too hard. I'm not smart enough for this. Maybe I should stop, just for a little while." This is the critical juncture. This is where meaningful work is abandoned. This is procrastination's most powerful attack, disguised not as laziness, but as legitimate frustration. But what if this wall was not a signal to stop? What if it was, in fact, the path forward? This is where we encounter one of the most profound and powerful principles in all of Stoic philosophy, summarized beautifully by the man who lived it every day, Marcus Aurelius. He wrote in his private journal, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Read those words again. He's not saying to ignore the obstacle or to go around it. He's telling us that the obstacle itself is our path. The frustration, the confusion, the error, this is not a reason to quit the work. This is the work itself. This single idea is a complete reversal of our natural instinct. It is a form of psychological alchemy. When you view an obstacle as an unwelcome roadblock, you become a victim. You are stopped, frustrated, and powerless. Your emotional energy is spent on resisting reality. But when you adopt the Stoic frame and see the obstacle as the way, you are instantly transformed from victim to agent. You are no longer fighting the path, you are walking it. This shift in perspective turns the poisonous energy of frustration into the productive energy of curiosity and determination. The question is no longer, why is this happening to me? But what is this asking of me? So how do we practice this alchemy in the heat of the moment? The first step is to create a circuit breaker for your frustration. When you feel that rising heat, you must pause, take one deep breath, and ask yourself a specific, empowering question. Not, why can't I solve this, which leads to self-pity, but rather, what new virtue or skill is this obstacle inviting me to practice? Is the stubborn line of code inviting you to practice patience? Is the poorly written first draft inviting you to practice humility and perseverance? Is the complex problem inviting you to practice creativity and to look at it from a completely new angle? This question immediately shifts your brain out of its emotional, reactive lizard brain state and into its rational, human, problem-solving cortex. It reframes the moment from a crisis into a curriculum. To put this into practice, think less like a boxer and more like a judo master. A boxer meets force with opposing force, a brutal and exhausting collision. A judo master, however, does not block their opponent's momentum. They accept it, blend with it, and redirect it to their own advantage. When the force of "this is too hard" comes rushing at you, your instinct is to meet it with the rigid force of "I have to do this," creating immense internal friction. The judo approach is different. You accept the feeling. Okay, I acknowledge that this feels difficult right now, and then you redirect its energy. Because this is so complex, this is the perfect opportunity to break it down into an even smaller step. Or, because I am stuck, I will use this as a chance to practice strategic patience and take a 5-minute walk to see the problem from a distance. You are using the very energy of the obstacle to fuel your next constructive move. Let's see this in the lives of people like us. A professional preparing a critical presentation finds that a key team member is being uncooperative and resistant. The obstacle is not the person. The obstacle is a live fire exercise in leadership and empathy. The way forward is not to grow angry, but to use the resistance as a cue to practice his communication skills, perhaps by scheduling a one-on-one meeting to truly understand the other's perspective. Or consider a young, ambitious student learning a new programming language. He hits a bug that completely halts his project. The obstacle is not the bug. It's a free, advanced lesson in debugging that will make him 10 times more valuable than if his code had run perfectly on the first try. He redirects his frustration into diving deep into forums and documentation, turning a roadblock into a ramp for his skills. This principle reaches its zenith in a concept the Stoics, and later the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche called Amor Fati, a love of one's fate. This is the most challenging and yet the most liberating practice of all. It is the practice of not just accepting or tolerating what happens to you, but learning to love it, to see it as essential and good. It is the mindset that says that every single event in your life, especially the difficult ones, is a necessary and indispensable part of your journey. The bug in the code, the difficult colleague, the frustrating paragraph, these are not random inconveniences. They are your specific, tailor-made curriculum for growth. To love your fate is to embrace your path so completely that you would not wish a single detail of it to be different. When you can truly practice this, you can achieve the ultimate emotional alchemy, the transformation of frustration into gratitude. In the moment of hitting a wall, the goal is to be able to say, with genuine conviction, "Thank you. Thank you for this obstacle, for it has revealed a weakness in my knowledge that I now have the opportunity to strengthen. Thank you for this challenge, for it is proof that I am pushing my own boundaries. Thank you for this moment of difficulty, for it is forging in me the resilience and character that I wish to possess. When difficulty becomes a reason for gratitude, the urge to procrastinate evaporates because the very things that once made you want to flee now become the reasons you are compelled to stay. Therefore, to embrace the obstacle as the way is to fundamentally rewrite your relationship with difficulty. It is a journey that moves you from frustrated victim to empowered agent, from seeing a problem as a barrier to using its energy like a master of martial arts, and finally, from merely enduring your fate to truly loving it. This is how a Stoic builds resilience. They do not pray for an easier life, but for the strength to endure a difficult one. They understand that the challenges they face are not impediments to their character, but the very chisel that sculpts it. We have learned how to start, how to focus, and how to persevere through hardship. But to cement this discipline and make it unbreakable, we must now call upon the Stoics' most sobering and powerful motivator of all. We must look our ultimate deadline squarely in the eye. Rule 4. Memento Mori. Remember you must die. We have come to the final and most powerful rule, the bedrock upon which all Stoic discipline is built. It is not a strategy, but a perspective. It is a truth so profound that, once fully embraced, it has the power to incinerate procrastination. We spend so much of our lives acting as though our time is an infinite resource. We say, someday I'll write that book, someday I'll start that business, someday I'll mend that relationship. We live in a dream of some days, while our actual days slip by unnoticed and unlived. The greatest procrastination is not putting off a task. It is putting off your life. The quiet tragedy of so many lives is not that they end, but that they are never truly begun. To combat this dream state, the Stoics wielded a sobering and powerful tool. It is a two-word Latin phrase that has echoed through the centuries. Memento Mori. Remember you must die. On the surface, this appears morbid, a dark obsession with the end. But for the Stoics, it was the exact opposite. It was not a tool for generating fear, but a tool for generating life. It is a filter for clarifying what truly matters. The constant, gentle awareness of your own mortality does not make life depressing. It makes it precious. It strips away the trivial anxieties, the petty grievances, and the fear of what others think, leaving only the essential. As Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a great deal of it." Memento Mori is the ultimate cure for wastefulness. Herein lies its power against procrastination. Procrastination is a weed that can only grow in the soil of perceived infinity. It thrives on the comforting lie of tomorrow. We delay because we assume there will always be another day, another chance, another moment where we will feel more ready, more inspired, more perfect. Memento Mori takes a hammer to this illusion. It looks you squarely in the eye and asks the most important question. If not now, when? In the face of an ultimate unmovable deadline, the excuses we build for our inaction are revealed for what they are. Trivial. The fear of failure, the desire for comfort, the paralysis of perfectionism. They all crumble to dust when measured against the finite nature of our time. How do we practice this without falling into despair? We begin with a simple, private, daily contemplation. This is not about imagining your death in graphic detail, but about using the idea of it to infuse your present day with purpose. When you wake up, take a single minute to contemplate the day ahead. See it not as just another Tuesday, but as a gift, a miniature life, with a beginning, a middle, and an end. A block of 24 hours that you will never get back. You can say to yourself, as Marcus Aurelius did, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. In the evening, you can conduct a similar review. Did I use this day well? Did I live, or did I merely exist? Did I act with courage and kindness? This simple ritual transforms time from an abstract concept into your most tangible and valuable possession. Beyond a mental contemplation, we can ground this perspective in the physical world. This is the practice of having a vanitas object, a physical anchor for the idea of memento mori. This does not need to be a literal skull on your desk. It can be something more personal and subtle. An hourglass reminding you of the passage of time, a worn river stone representing eons of existence, a faded photograph of an ancestor, a testament to the cycles of life and death. Place this object in your workspace, somewhere your gaze will fall upon it occasionally. It is not there to be morbid. It is a silent mentor. Each time you see it, it will gently ask you, without a single word, are you making good use of this irreplaceable moment? Another powerful exercise, often practiced by Marcus Aurelius, is to take the view from above. In a moment of stress or procrastination, close your eyes. Imagine your consciousness gently floating upwards out of your chair. See yourself at your desk, float higher, and see the room, then your home, your neighborhood. Rise further still, seeing your entire city, your country, a continent, and then the whole beautiful blue sphere of the earth hanging in the silent darkness of space. From this cosmic perch, look upon all the sweep of human history, empires rising and falling, generations living and dying. Now, from this vast perspective, consider the problem on your desk and the fear that is causing you to delay. How large does it truly seem? This exercise does not make your work insignificant. It makes your excuses insignificant. It shrinks the fear and illuminates the profound, fleeting privilege of this moment, your chance to act, to create, to contribute your verse to the great story. This is why memento mori is the ultimate principle that fuels all the others. It is the sun that gives light and energy to the entire system. The awareness of your mortality gives you the profound urgency to apply the 2-minute rule, because you realize that this present moment is the only one you are guaranteed. It gives you the fierce discipline to guard your attention like a fortress, because you understand that your focus is the currency of your life, too precious to be spent on trivialities. And it gives you the unwavering courage to see that the obstacle is the way, because you know that a life of meaning is forged in the crucible of challenge, not in the comfort of ease. So you see, memento mori is not a whisper of death. It is a battle cry for life. It is not a philosophy of despair, but one of radical empowerment. It is the Stoic secret to ending procrastination for good, because it replaces the question, do I feel like it, with the much more powerful question, with the limited time I have, is this the best way I can live? When you live with that question, you don't have time to procrastinate. You only have time to live. We have reached the end of our workshop together, but it is the beginning of your new practice. Look back for a moment at the path we have traveled. You are no longer the person who sat down to watch this video. You now possess a complete toolkit for building unbreakable discipline, forged from the timeless wisdom of the Stoics. You have the key to begin any task, no matter how daunting, with the 2-minute rule. You have the strategy to build a fortress around your attention, protecting your mind from the chaos of the modern world. You hold the psychological alchemy to transform any obstacle into your path forward, turning frustration into fuel. And most importantly, you have the ultimate source of perspective and purpose, the profound urgency granted by memento mori. This is more than a set of rules. It is a new operating system for your mind, a practical philosophy for a life of resilience, purpose, and inner peace. Now the journey continues with you, and I want to hear from you. Which of these 4 rules resonated most deeply with where you are in your life right now? Was it the disarming simplicity of starting, the urgent need to protect your focus, the empowering reframe of obstacles, or the profound clarity that comes from remembering your time is finite? Share your insight in the comments below. Your story, your struggle, and your victory are part of the collective wisdom of this community, and they can be the very things someone else needs to read today. If this philosophy of action and tranquility speaks to you, and you are ready to continue forging your own inner citadel, then I invite you to subscribe to The Modern Stoic and activate the notification bell so you never miss our next step on this path together. In our next video, we will explore the Stoic art of dealing with negative emotions, how to find calm in the face of anger, anxiety, and grief. Until then, stay strong, stay present, and live with virtue.